We're going. Go. In 3, 2, 1. Hey, it's Saturday
Hello,
night,
everybody.
and we're live. And guess what? I don't have Brian. We've actually put his body in a paper bag and hid it somewhere in the world. So he's not with us tonight. So instead, we get
He's in the mountains.
He's in the mountains. We get the very lovely Jess Corniching, who we haven't seen on this channel for quite some time. So she's going to join me as my co-host tonight. We've got a few people we got to say hi to. First and foremost, we got Rasmus Wallen, 3D Medic Vince, Kim Madsen, Snapshot FPV, who again I'm going to thank because of these cool things. Those are great coasters. Gotta love them. We got
So excited.
Jerry, 3D Printing and Painting, our friend from Lost Wages. SPC 3D, Dominic Versetto, Rex Waldy, Joseph Jolly, Wesley Fletcher, David Sell, Thomas the Dank Engine, Trevor
The
Rickard,
Dank Engine.
James Bobineau. We have my lovely wife, Geraldine Ham. We've got Spartan Props. That's you. Who else
me.
We got here? We got High Tech Redneck. Gary T is here. Robert Marvin and 3D Medic Vince. Or did we say hi to 3D Medic? We did say hi to 3D Medic because John Kitchen's here as well.
Did we say hi to V Rich and Denatius? Don't know if I said that right.
V Rich Denatius. I don't think I saw him.
No, V Rich and then Denatius is a different purpose. Yeah.
I missed them both. So
hello.
V Rich and hello to Denatius. There we go. Denitus.
Hey, look who just showed up.
It's Denitus. He calls it Denitus. There's Mike Brown. Hey, there's Brian Baker. I'm so proud of you, Jess, he says. So tonight, what are we talking about? We are talking about resin. We're talking all about resin. Tonight, we're going to take your questions regarding resin. We have a very kind of different show tonight. This week we've been playing with the websites. We've been moving the websites from our old hosting to a brand new hosting. So all of our websites now are going to be SSL encrypted. So there will be a little lock on all of our sites. We're getting ready to launch our very first merchandise site that is completely done by us in-house. So you'll be able to get t-shirts like I'm wearing right now. The iPrint PETG or the iPrint PLA or the iPrint ABS.
I'm a heathen for not wearing mine, but it's in the laundry.
Oh, that's okay. We'll forgive you this time. Most other guys wouldn't forgive you, but we will.
Okay.
Resonating.
I've got a Han Solo album on my shirt anyway.
There you go. That'll work. Mike Brown, greetings and salutations. Somebody is here. We got John Kitchen from Florida. We got somebody from Denmark. Yes, where did that one go? There we go. Henrik Pon is from Denmark. Yes, we have. We've got a lot of. You guys are from all over the place. There's Pierre from Edmonton. Now, normally we would answer your questions that came in through the email this week. However, the email crashed on us. And I don't have any questions. So if there was a question that you had submitted to us this week or last week, please put it in the chat tonight and we'll get to it. Not necessarily resin related, but pros and cons of printing hollow versus solid shells.
Now, are we going to answer that regarding resin or PLA?
Well, I think we can answer it on both of them. Resin, we'll start with resin first. So resin, this is done in the, what resin is this? This is the Monocular Rapid Gray resin. This is hollow inside. You can see I've got a couple of drain holes in the bottom. There's only, I think the wall thickness on this is about 2.5 millimeters thick, so it's not really all that thick. However, this head took almost 4 hours to print, just the way that it is. It's light. It's great. It's got enough of a thickness to it that it's strong, like it's not going to break on you. I was able to get enough material in there to clean out whatever resin might have been in there. And of course, it was cured in my curing station. Now, do I think that if you made this solid, this would be really heavy? This is the example of a solid print. This is a little bit smaller than this one. And, well, they're roughly about the same size, actually. Roughly about the same scale. So this one is solid, and it weighs. You can feel the significance in this one. If I threw this, this would go through glass. If I threw this, this would probably bounce off. Did I need to have all of that weight? Did I need to do this in solid? No, because I think it's like it in any other material. It's a waste of material if you're going solid. I found that happy medium of 2.5 millimeters being the best for capturing detail and still retaining strength. What about you, Jess? What have you found with your resin prints? How are you printing them?
Well, I haven't done a tremendous amount of resin, but as far as like PLA goes, if I'm making a large scale prop, such as like a 1-to-1 scale rifle, I would prefer it to be hollow. Otherwise, it's going to weigh like 40 pounds, and that's not something I want to cart around at a con all day. Plus, it saves so much material.
Yeah, it does save a lot of material. There's certain parts on props that I would love to have a little bit thicker and a little bit more infill in, like handles, for instance, like grips on guns and stuff. I usually put a little bit more infill in there, up to, and those guys who know me really well are going to be shocked by this, but I usually go up to around 30-35%. On the infill, and I'm still doing 3 walls, so I've got enough material if I've got to sand it out. And I just find that just gives the right amount of weight to the whole, if you're doing a long piece. That Ezra Bridger lightsaber blaster combo that I showed off on Monday, that has got about 30% infill through the whole thing. And it's got some weight to it.
The DMR I actually just took to James, otherwise I would show it off, but I try to have a heavier infill when there's small, like thin parts, kind of like the barrel, or there's like a strap clip on it as well. So stuff like that should be more infill because it'll be stronger and more durable.
Gotcha. Now, what about regular prints? Like when you do your helmets or you're doing other prints, like I'm not going to bring up the Luke Vader helmet print because that thing is bowling ball heavy.
Well, Brian printed that one, so you can blame him for that. I usually print at like 10 to 15% infill.
I do too. You're using Simplify or are you using Cura?
I use Cura.
Now, what type of infill are you using most often?
I think it's called Gyroid.
Gyroid? That's one I use quite a bit too. Let's have a look over here in our questions. Aloha, Hawaii, Shaka Ripper. That's actually a really cool name. Tracy Kitchen from upstate New York. Hello, Dominic Versetto. I think we said hi to Dominic earlier. 3D printing and painting says, I #1 resin to print hollow in resin, so it saves a lot of cash, but small things must be solid. Yeah, I'll agree with that. If you're doing like a D&D miniature, I will usually print them solid. But
this thing is solid.
Is it?
It is, yes. It's quite heavy. So it's hefty. It'll do the trick. But I didn't do any post-processing on it either, so.
Gotcha. And how long did that one take to print?
Good question. I don't remember. We printed it so long ago. I feel like it was more than a day, though.
Gotcha.
This one wasn't very long, and it's hollow. So it's very light. Hollow. It is hollow, yeah.
That's cool looking.
Oh, I like it. He's got little drainage holes down here. Excuse me while I show his holes.
There you go. All right, let's see what we've got going on here in the chat. Hey, there's Sausage and RT. Richard Taylor, our good friend. Sausage, my wife's favorite name for a YouTube person is Sausage. I don't know why. She just loves that name.
Because sausage is delicious, duh.
Oh, Paul. It reminds her of the movie Paul.
Oh,
You know, where he says, "Don't cry, sausage. Don't call me that in front of him." Have I seen that movie? When I've printed helmets in the past, I've printed them both hollow and also as solid shells. For some reason, when I did the solids, the surface quality wasn't as good. That could be due to a few reasons. I've never printed a helmet at 100% infill. I just don't think it's necessary. Even your helmet that I printed for you last year, was that last year or the year before?
year before.
Year before. I don't think I did 100% infill on that. I think it was only 3 walls and maybe 15% infill.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
The more that you're moving that head around, the more the inertia is going to cause your print to come out a little worse on the surface finish, I find. So if you're only doing 3 walls and you're doing, 10-15% infill, your surface finishes are going to be much nicer. Or slow your machine down. That could take away some of that. Sausage says he's done a lot of resin, especially in the 80s. I could say so much
Rock
to that,
on,
but I'm
bro.
not going
Rock on.
to. Denitus is asking, the resin color should also make a difference because if light doesn't pass through the model, it won't cure all the way. Yeah, it does make a difference. If you're doing translucent colors, you don't need to have your curing time up quite as much. But when you're printing, solid colors like gray here, which is all I have here is gray, you are going to need to bump that up a little bit. It took me quite a while to get that Creality LD002R resin printer dialed in for this material. I finally had to reach out to a guy who is in the community over on Facebook for Monicure Resin. And he gave me his settings and they work just perfect. Absolutely perfect. Hey, Miles Clayton, how's it going? It's going great. Pierre is asking, will you make a video on how you will paint brush your Mandalorian? How I'll paint? I won't paint brush it, that's for sure. Yes, we are going to make a video on how we're going to finish the Mandalorian helmet. Right now, it is still in primer. Unfortunately, we did not get it finished for our this COVID-19 thing has really buggered up a lot of things. Because we've had to move the studio all home, of course, we had to make space and we're still in the throes. Our house looks like a bomb went off in it right now because we're still in the throes of trying to get things organized to where all these printers are going to go. Right now, there's like 6-7 printers sitting here in the studio, which need to go into their own dedicated room. So that's going to happen soon. But I think at the end of the day, we are going to do more Star Wars. We're going to do more helmets. We're going to finish up both the 1/2 scale R2D2, and we're going to finish up we're going to continue, which is going to be a much longer project, of course, on the 1:1 scale R2. So what are you guys doing in terms of bigger projects now that you didn't go to Calgary Expo this year, Jess?
I cry.
You cry.
Given that it's going to be a year away, I've kind of taken a break from cosplay work for a little while, just because I've been doing it daily for so many months now.
Right.
But I'm kind of getting a little bit more into it again. I have some more foam work to do. I'm building a 6-foot tall, long sniper rifle replica.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So Joseph Jolly says he has the Anycubic Photon S. His prints are sticking to the bottom of the resin tank. Joseph, I can tell you exactly what's going on there. You have got to re-level that bed. Your bed is not level. If it's coming off of the build plate, and I learned this kind of the hard way with my with my D7, my Wanhao D7, is that when it's just microns too far away, it will pull it off and it'll sit at the bottom of the tank. So try re-leveling the bed. That would be my best bet for you. Nigel C says, no resin for me. He says, too messy. Resin is messy. And let's talk about some of the safety features that you really need to keep in mind when you're dealing with resin. You really should use nitrile gloves. Don't use latex. Don't use the cheapy food ones that they are using everywhere. Use nitrile gloves. If you have to, double glove, depending on what you're doing. I've got a box of gloves here that I'm just about out of. I need to get another set here pretty soon. What about you, Jess? What do you do to keep things clean and tidy and not get any resin on yourself?
Well, I was naughty and pulled a print off the build plate with my bare hands yesterday. I kind of just scraped it off right into our ultrasonic cleaner, but it missed and I had to pick it up. But it wasn't too much. But maybe given the global glove shortage, maybe we should talk about alternatives to nitrile gloves. Like, could you use a plastic bag, to pick up your prints?
Now, that's actually a good question. I guess it would depend on what type of plastic. I know on my ultrasonic cleaner here, I have gotten resin on the front controls, and over time, the resin has eaten away the front controls. So literally, when I push the let's start the ultrasonic cleaner button, it actually has been totally eaten away. So there's just a little switch there now. And I really haven't had that thing for very long. So
thankfully, ours is still pretty clean. The worst of it is really on our bathroom counter and on our stainless steel scrapers.
Gotcha. So what I want to show here is, here's another thing that you might want to consider when you're doing these types of prints. This is a curing bucket. This was all 3D printed. Maybe I should get it in camera. It all comes apart, so you can see there's the base, there's the ring, and then there, of course, is the top. And that it has a plug-in right there for 12 volt. These are 405 nanometer LEDs inside here, UV LEDs. So you got to make sure that you don't have resin on your hands, like your bare skin, when you turn this thing on, because if you do,
it burns.
It will flash and it will burn. And then my wife says you can also do your nails in it if you do gel nails. Yes. And then I got one of these funky things, which is just a little UV turntable. You can put a battery in it if you want to. But
we have one of those too.
I just put it in the bottom. I put my print on top like so. Let's see if I can do this without knocking things off. Just like so, and then it just spins around. Oh, there we go.
Ours only seems to turn on when it's in the sun. I don't know if Brian put a battery in it or not.
If you put a battery
in it, might just be solar powered.
It'll just go all the time. This one has solar collectors on it as well. But yes, resin is very messy. There are ways to contain it. I found that I clean my vat about every couple prints now, because you do get little flakes that come off, and Frankenstein's a good example. You can see there's a scar on the back of his head there. That was from me not cleaning out the vat properly before I started that print. And at the end of the day, what do I think of resin printing? I think it's a great technology. There's more I want to be doing with it. I can't wait to get a new printer that's going to be coming our way from Frozen. Frozen is sending us out their Sonic Mini. We're going to test that out and we're going to play with it. And then later on this year, we will be testing something that they haven't released yet in a large format resin printer. So we'll be able to do much larger things like this 1/6 scale Frankenstein and the rest of the Universal monsters. Hopefully we can get them all done before Halloween.
I just saw a question from Kim Madsen. It says, plates, so I need some advice here. I have now a Primo plate, white PEI, but it will not stick on that plate. PP and ABS, no good. What do we do?
What do we do? Well, I would say first and foremost, you're using PEI as your build surface. You're going to have to get a little closer to the build surface with your nozzle. And you're using ABS and polypropylene, I believe PP is. ABS doesn't really stick well to any really smooth surface. That's what I found. You got to have a bit of a texture. What I would do with that PEI is I would get some 800 grit sandpaper and just give it a quick little sanding across it, just enough to scuff up the top surface. Once you scuffed up that top surface, it will give the plastic something to grab onto. And if it doesn't do that, then I would say go to glass and glue stick, to be perfectly honest with you. Hopefully that print is also, if you're printing with PP and ABS, hopefully you are in an enclosed environment. You're using a printer that has an enclosure. That would probably be the best for you.
I'm also wondering about. I know they just said that they got a new build plate, but we just got these, and it's textured.
Yep.
And it's really, really awesome. And I think maybe it would stick a little better to this since it's kind of a rough surface.
Yeah, it usually does because it's got something to grab onto.
Yeah, and I know Brian's in the chat. Since he bought them, he could probably type where he got them from because I'm not 100% sure.
I think you can get those at Spool 3D on their website. They're a single-sided flex plate is what they are.
That sounds about right, yeah.
So we got Trevor Rickard here. He says, I got a quick question for you all tonight. I have upgraded my Cr-10 S to a dual gear extruder. Do you think it would be a mess with my E-steps at all? It shouldn't mess with your E-steps at all. Brian is saying that the dual gear should be 139.5 if he recalls. I haven't put a dual gear one on mine yet. I know, well, that's not completely true because my Cr-10 has a Bondtech on it and I had to go up to 415 E-steps in order for it to do it right. But that's because of the gear ratio in there. Yeah, I think Brian's probably right. It's 139.5, and just change your E-steps to that. Polypropylene. Yes, it was polypropylene. Ken Jansen. Hello, Richard and Jess and chat. Paul Cumber.
Hello.
PLA better to print or PETG? Well, it all depends, Paul, on what you're making. PETG, I find, is a great plastic if you want anything that needs to have strength or durability, but it's not a great plastic to glue, and it's not a great plastic to paint. PLA is much more forgiving in that respect. What about you, Jess? What do you think about that? I know you've printed with both.
Yeah. I wasn't listening.
Oh, okay.
I was answering a comment. I'm so sorry.
There you go.
Yes.
So, which is better, PETG or PLA for printing? And my answer is it all depends on what
I like PLA.
Yeah, it all depends on what you're making, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with that. For like things that are more likely to be used more and maybe have more stress on them, I use something stronger like PETG for sure.
I just did parts for one of the Halo rifles that we were talking about a few weeks ago. I've printed some parts for it. I haven't printed the whole thing yet. And at the end of the day, PLA is just fine for that kind of stuff. I think if you're going to be doing props and you're going to be doing statues, stuff like this, normally I would have just printed this in PLA, but I really wanted the detail because I've got some stuff coming up later in the year where I'm going to be printing quarter scale models in resin. for a client. And I can't tell you too much about that, but they will be available as kits for this client. And the client will be taking care of all of the stuff. And they're going to be garage kits for now, and they'll be done in 1/8 scale or 1/6 scale and quarter scale. So there'll be two different scales for them, and there will be some painted ones as well, which won't go cheap.
And going back to the which material do you prefer and the application for it, I think you and I were talking a couple of days ago about what would be better for the interior of a car, like a body
Right.
panel or
Yeah.
something per se. And I think that we were talking about PETG for that.
PETG, ABS, or nylon, all very
Yeah.
good materials for that. Nylon probably being the best, but the hardest to print. PETG and ABS probably being the easiest to print, and they'll stand up to the heat of the inside of the car up here in Canada. Maybe not down in Vegas or places that get up to 100+ Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kim is saying, so I have to get it off the surface of the Primo plate, but you think a glass plate
Glass plate.
is maybe better for PP and ABS? Absolutely. Glass and glue stick, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm a huge glass and glue stick fan. It works well. It's not a lot of maintenance. A piece of glass or a piece of mirror even is better. Don't use cheap glass. Go and get some good borosilicate glass if you're going to do it. And make sure that you use an interference layer like glue stick. It helps it stick down to the surface, and B, it gives it sort of an easy release once that build plate has come back down to room temperature. I know here on the Lotmaxx SC-10 that I've got, which is an open air printer, when you print anything on that, and I haven't put glue stick on that for months. I just keep cleaning the surface with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol every time I do a print. It sticks so well that once it cools, you can literally hear it breaking off the bed. Where it's because the bed is now cooling and shrinking, the print doesn't shrink, so it just stays where it is, and everything's sort of coming back to its regular shape and size. You'll hear it cracking off the bed. So you really want to wait till things have settled down and your bed plate is cool before removing your print. Wesley Fletcher is saying, I use PETG for custom PC parts or ABS if he has to. That's great if it's working for you, man. Christensen. Oh, Nathan Christensen. Noob question. Looking into an Ender 5 Plus is only benefit to fit the True Core XY over an Ender 5 print speed. The Ender 5 Plus is a much better printer than the Ender 5 is, in my opinion. If you're going to go for either or, I would say the Ender 5 Plus, is your best bet. It is going to give you a few more features than the Ender 5 does. The difference between the Ender 5 and the Ender 3 is 50 millimeters in build volume. That's it. That's all that's different. It's when you get into the Plus that you start seeing significant differences, and I think the Ender 5 Plus is a much better machine. Dum Dum Dev. What size tip do you use for detail models on an Ender? You guys are going to be real surprised at this. I use a 0.4 millimeter tip. I have never changed it. I always use a 0.4. Jess, what about you?
I have also never changed my nozzle. I think I maybe went to a 0.6 for like wood filament the one time I tried it.
Gotcha.
But I immediately switched back as soon as I was done printing with it. So actually, that might have even just been a different metal. It's still 0.4.
Still 0.4. There you go.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, as far as if you're doing minis on your Ender 3, I've printed minis successfully. Jess, you know this. I've successfully printed 28 millimeter figures with high detail using a 0.4 nozzle. You really have to slow it down. That's all you really have to do, and watch your speed, and also watch your layer height. That's going to be the determining factor whether you have a successful print or a non-successful print.
I think most of Brian's nozzles are 0.8s.
Super chat. And then Dum Dum has another question about a mirrored surface.
Did I miss a super chat?
No, but you need to tell people that the super chat.
Oh, yes. Yeah. My wife's saying you have to tell people super chat's on because we're at the half-hour mark. Super chat is
really?
turned on. If you are getting some value out of tonight's live stream, please consider using the super chat. It goes a long way to helping us get new materials and, stuff to do prints for you guys and test out new machines and things like that. We do really appreciate it. It all goes back into the coffers, as it were.
The coffees.
And it also goes into the coffees as well. Yes. If you're looking for how to get a hold of us, let me quickly go to this slide, and I will come back to Jess in just a sec. There we go. So you can still hear her. You can follow us on social media on Facebook at our group, The First Layer. You can find us on Instagram, The 1ST Layer. And if you want to, you can follow me on Twitter. It's Cleveland I Am. And then, of course, you know where to find us right here on YouTube each and every week. We did not have a Wednesday show. It was just very chaotic around here this week. And unfortunately, we didn't have a Wednesday show. It is recorded. I just have to edit it, and it'll come out this week. And it is on the cutest little printer I have ever used.
I ever did see. Hey, I saw a question that we missed.
Okay.
Denitus said, what is the strongest resin we have tested?
Strongest resin I've tested is the dental resin.
Super chat.
We just got a super chat from Brian Baker, who's not with us tonight. I guess he thinks we need to get drunk. Maybe we do.
I'm already working on it.
There you go. So when you guys do super chats, you get to hear this
Super chat.
which is something I worked very hard on. So let's get back to that question. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian. God.
Thomas the Dank Engine.
Oh,
No,
lost-
the strongest resin.
There you go. Strongest resin I've used is the dental resin, and you can get ABS resins. There's all kinds of resins that you can get out there. So yeah, just check it out. And ABS is probably going to be your strongest, or the dental resin, which has the same shore hardness as a hard hat. So
We have dental resin, but I don't think we've actually tested it yet. I'm trying to remember what the brand of resin that Brian always buys is, which I can't think of right now. I'm so sorry.
hey, there's another one.
Super chat.
Hey, thanks, James Lane, for the super chat. That's always appreciated.
Sorry,
Right.
I saw another question from Dominic Versetto that says, any hope for a detailed Marlin workshop?
Yes, we're going to be doing a detailed Marlin workshop very soon. As people may know or may not know, I do not have access to doing classes any longer at Spool 3D because of the pandemic. They are still closed, so they will not be reopening anytime soon, from my understanding. So I am producing right now several different courses that are going to be coming out on our learnthefirstlayer.com, which is not launched yet. And then we are going to have our own site for our merch, which is shopthefirstlayer.com. You're going to be able to buy yourself t-shirts there. You'll be able to get some ebooks as we release them, and so on and so forth. So there's quite a few things that we've been working on during this pandemic, both my wife and I, and it's It's all there to help you guys in the end. We are not going to be using Teespring as of the end of May. Teespring will be totally gone by the end of May. So slowly we're going to roll out t-shirt products, and slowly we're going to roll out ebooks. And there will be from time to time some free downloads there as well. So something for you guys to check out.
I found another question from Dum Dum Dev. Why is
Okay.
mirrored better? I know that we said the question, but I don't recall if we answered it.
Okay, why is mirrored better? A mirror is better than straight glass just because it is truly flat. It has to be truly flat. Otherwise, you get that funhouse look that we've all seen when we've gone to the carnival. If your mirror is not truly flat, then you're going to run into the same issues that you have with a lot of cheap Chinese glass, or if you're using a picture frame glass or something along that line. I find that the best way to do it is use a mirror because it's truly flat. The other advantage of that is the coating that is on the backside that causes the reflectivity also allows that surface to heat up a lot more evenly because it spreads out along that surface, and it heats up the bed much better. So it doesn't heat it up any faster, but it's a lot more even in terms of the heating distribution.
I've got two questions here. I'm
Okay.
going to pair them together because they're kind of on the same wavelength.
All right.
Sausage asked, do you need to change the nozzle due to wear? I saw a couple people in the chat had answered him, but just in case we wanted to talk about it. And then the
Okay.
second part of that is from Dominic Versetto. Are bulk nozzles from Amazon any good? If not, which are the best?
Well, if you're going to buy a brass nozzle, bulk nozzles are probably your most economical. And do you need to change them because of wear? Yes, absolutely. Like anything
100%,
else,
yeah.
yeah, like anything else in a 3D printer, you've got consumables, and that right there is a consumable. By using the nozzle, and over time they are going to wear out, and they're going to get a little bigger, and they're going to get a little squished from time to time. So it is very important that you do change your nozzle out. Now, I'll usually change my brass nozzles out about once every 1,500 hours of print time. Sometimes I'll do it before that if I've had troubles with the machine, but I don't typically have too many problems with my machines over the long haul. So about every 1,500 hours, I change out my nozzles, whether they need it or not.
Yeah, I'm really bad at changing my nozzles, so I run into problems every now and then. 32-bit or 8-bit and advantages of each from KKP 3D.
KKP 3D, that is our good friend Tim McCoyne, who was on the show last week. 8-bit or 32-bit? Well, in all honesty, I'm going to say 32-bit. Why? Because 32-bit just handles the operations much smoother than an 8-bit board does. The circuitry is better usually, and you've got a little bit more room to play with at the end of the day when it comes down to what type of firmware you're going to be putting on it. I've actually got a 32-bit board sitting right in front of me right here.
Ooh. I have two, but I don't know what they are. Because they're Brian's.
Oh, those look like 8-bit boards, those ones.
There is another question. It's gone. Oh, there's a couple. How do I put custom G-code scripts into Cura? Is one.
Okay, that's from Loch Ness Gaming. That's our young friend. That's Captain Lachlan. That's who that is. How do you put custom G-code scripts into Cura? Well, you're going to put them in your start G-code. And you just have to look up what script you want to put in there. I wouldn't mess around with that too much because your printer is already set up in Cura. So if you wanted to add, say, G29 because you added a BL Touch, you would add that after G28 and then save it. However, that being said, I don't think that adding additional scripts in there is the easiest way to do it. I think there's much easier ways to add extra functionality in Cura, and that's all through going into the menu system at the top and doing Z offsets or one of the other areas that you can work with.
And there's also adding specific little movements and jitters and like a name for your printer would all be done through the Arduino editor.
Yeah, you can do it that way as well.
Uru Whisperwind asks, what is the best recommendation for getting more detail in smaller prints? I'll let you finish off that question first, though.
Getting back to what Loch Ness was asking, I think that at the end of the day, it all depends on what scripts you want to put into it. Let's move on to the question there from Uru Whisperwind. That is kind of a neat name. He's got to be a bard. He has to be a bard with a name like that. Yeah, it's got to be a bard. What's the best recommendation for getting more detail in smaller 3D prints? Slow down your printer and increase or decrease your layer height. So make it a much finer layer height and slow it down. When I'm doing 28 millimeter miniatures on a Ender 3, for instance, I'm printing at around 25 millimeters per second, and my layer height is no more than 1.2 or 0.12, pardon me, 0.12.
And Thomas the Dank Engine asks, I've been eyeing some files from DO3D. Can anyone here recommend or comment if they're good, or should I stay away from that? Personally, I've heard mixed reviews, but I've never bought anything myself, so I can't really comment aside from what I've heard.
I've tried to buy files from DO3D, and they seem to range in price. Because nobody's got any posted prices on their stuff there. Not that I've seen anyway. I could be wrong about that, but from what I've seen, nobody's got posted prices. So you could find a file that you love, and it could cost you, $70. Or you could go to better sites. I think there's much better sites than DO3D. I would go to My Mini Factory. They've got some excellent stuff over there. You can go to Gambody. You can go to Sanix 3D Printing or 3D Design. There is Megs Empanado, who's got a Patreon page where you can sign up for a monthly fee, and you'll get access to all of his downloads. There's a brand new guy right inside of our Facebook group, Pablo Venezuela, who is the designer of this Frankenstein model I've been testing recently. He has a set of 8 of these models, and retail, I think he's only charging like $45 for the whole set of 8, or they're $9.99 individually. So if you're looking for some great stuff, I would just put my feelers out there. First and foremost, DO3D, not my favorite place to go.
I bought something from somebody named 3Demon. He was really, really professional. He did a commissioned piece for me. Mm-hmm. It took him a bit of time, but the finished product was really quite spectacular. I haven't just had a chance to print it yet, though.
Maker 13 Matheson. I'm just going to touch on this one really quickly. He says, does Luke Hatfield have his own YouTube or website? I don't think he's got a website up, but he does have a YouTube that he's been working on. He's rebranding himself right now, so it might take a little bit of time to find his YouTube. But I'm sure if you messaged him on Facebook, you'd be able to find it. He would give you the link to it.
Joel Rayner says, did she just fart because she blows me away? No, I did not fart.
Okay.
Nige C says, with your CR-10 and Bondtech extruder, do you have trouble changing filament, i.e. the need to dismantle it? For me, when I used the Bondtech, I found that it just clogged way too much for me. Like the gears themselves to push them in would actually melt the filament right there at the end. So I had to stop using it.
I found that the happy medium for me on my Bondtech is I will pull the material back out by hand. I'll use the little wheel and I'll pull it back out by hand. And then when I get it close to the actual mechanism, what I'll do is I'll just open up the Bowden tube. I'll snip it off because it has that little bulb on the end from melting. So I'll just snip that off and then I'll pull it all the way through and I never have to take it apart.
Yeah, I only printed 2 things with mine, and I had to stop. I actually ended up melting it trying to fix it, so only a small bit though.
Ricky B says, I noticed I'm getting lines on my Darlin V-slot wheels, X, Y, and Drylin. I think he's trying to say Drylin there. And there's some tiny pieces of the Drylin material falling off. Is this normal? No, it's not normal. I think what you've got there, Ricky B, is that you have got your wheels too tight. If you are getting material coming off, that's a clear indication that your eccentric spacers are far too tight and you really have to loosen them up.
Should we talk about basic maintenance, maybe? Touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that.
Especially with the comment about shredding or, wheel material falling off.
Yeah. Maintenance is something that I recommend to anybody that has a 3D printer, and we do maintenance quite regularly on ours here. Just to keep them in tip-top shape, cleaning off the Z rods, cleaning off the Y, cleaning off any debris that you might have there. Get a little can of air and just spray air on it and get rid of those extra little pieces. Inspect your wheels. If your wheels look like they're wearing prematurely or unevenly, that's a good indication that you have some work to do in your eccentric spacers and adjusting the eccentrics so that things are snug but not too tight. 3-in-1 oil. I know that a lot of guys are moving to a silicone-based 3-in-1 oil. And I think I'm going to try that. Usually I will use white lithium grease. But
that's what I use too, but that's just because it's easy access for me.
Yeah, me too. It's easily accessible for me as well. So I think that I'm going to try that out on one of my printers here pretty soon. We're going to do some maintenance on it, and maybe we'll film that for you guys and just show you what the results are and how they're different. Hey, there we go.
Thank you, Ricky B.
Thank you, Ricky B, for the super chat. Always appreciated. Tempest, I always bugger up his last name, but Tempest, DO3D, I have avoided way overpriced if they get back to you. Some people don't get back to you. He's right about that. I've had that problem. There is a script on the Bondtech site. Yes, there is. And I've used it myself. 3-in-1 PTFE lubricant is what it's called. Ben, thank you for clearing that up. PTFE 3-in-1 lubricant is what you want. Not silicone lubricant, PTFE. It's easy to clean. It doesn't gum up as much as some others. I know that on this Creality resin printer, they've got white lithium grease on that, and it's just pooling at the bottom.
Oh yeah, that's what's happening to mine too. I need to clean my rods. Giggity.
Yeah, me too. So Thomas is saying that he's modeled a Mass Effect helmet. He's been looking for a body armor to go with it. DO3D has it, but the site looks like it's a little sketchy to me. I don't know about sketchy, but I do know that it does take a while for people to get back to you, if they get back to you at all. And we've talked about this before. I don't use DO3D. I have talked about them in a previous video where I was looking for sites where you could download different things, and they were pretty much at the bottom of my list. Mark Baker, can Canadians buy the Elegoo Mars Pro as of yet? I do not know if it's available here in Canada or not. I know that the Creality LD002R is, people are having a hard time getting it from China for whatever reason. I have spoken with my contact from Banggood, and for whatever reason, they're not shipping it to Canada right now. They couldn't really give me a definitive answer, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of it has to do with what's going on in the world right now. So It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I think we're going to see all this when things start opening up again. We haven't seen the second wave of this pandemic yet. And, the governments are already starting to talk about opening things back up, getting people back to work. Because quite frankly, it's costing the governments tons and billions of dollars to pay us not to work. But at the end of the day, they do want to get things
More money for buying 3D printers.
Yeah. They do want to get us back into the regular swing of things, but what that new normal is going to be, nobody knows. I know here we're not going to get into buying or selling things for 3D printing. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing, creating courses, creating ebooks, and doing T-shirts and things like that. So,
does anybody have any large projects that they're working on during the quarantine?
Yeah. What have you guys been printing during quarantine? Anything.
Send us a chat there.
Yeah, we want to know. So tonight's kind of been a weird night because we didn't really have anything pre-prepared for tonight, and we just kind of went off our cuff. We hope that you enjoyed our short, brief show on Monday talking about Star Wars. If you haven't yet caught it, they're doing a docu-series on The Mandalorian. If you're a fan of that show, and I am a huge fan of that show, so you can go and check that out. It's really good. I watched the second episode just before doing tonight's live stream. I'm going to be doing a lot more Mandalorian stuff. I'm trying to do a Mando cosplay for next year. We'll see.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'll help you out.
I know you will. We'll see how that goes.
Speaking of Star Wars, I know it's a little bit off the topic of 3D printing, but Richard told us the other day that Disney actually released a new app for the Droid Depot. So if you had a droid from Disneyland, there's a new app for it, and it can like dance and play tic-tac-toe and stuff with you. It's really quite fun.
It is a lot of fun. I played with mine down here just before I wrecked my back one day. And my back is still very, very sore. I wrecked it on Tuesday when I was unloading the car. Is that right, honey? And then I fell off my chair the other night. And I wasn't drinking either. I was bending over to pick something up off the floor, and my chair scooted out from underneath my butt, and my butt went straight down on the floor. And my wife said it was so loud that she heard it upstairs, and she was wondering if she had to come downstairs and help me get up off the ground.
Well, that's why you shouldn't put butter or Teflon on your computer chairs.
There you go. Dominic Rossetto, any thoughts on Luke Hatfield's hot end fix? Not yet. I haven't tried it. I haven't tried it because I haven't needed to try it, in all honesty. But at the end of the day, Luke is a very knowledgeable guy. He really tries things out before he puts them out in the ether. So I would definitely give it a try if it's something that you're having problems with. Robert Marvin, you're so nice. He says, no matter what you guys discuss, I always pick up a bit to add to other bits and hope eventually to have a much better picture. Thanks to everyone. Thank you very much for that comment there, Robert. We really do appreciate it. Jerry over at 3D Printing and Painting, he's saying that Dominic, he's saying that Luke's works very well. James Lane, project, very slowly trying to design my own custom Core XY printer, reusing parts I already have, which are different from the parts list commonly available for Core XY designs. I'm going to probably do another build here pretty soon after we get everything all settled here in the house, and then go from there. And you guys will be able to follow along. If you're not part of our Patreon, I am going to talk a little bit about Patreon. We are still doing Patreon, or we started it back up again. So if you guys want to get in on that, we're working on getting brand new content up there. Of course, this pandemic has caused issues and issues and issues, but we are working to get content up there just for you guys over on our Patreon. So go check that out if you want to support the show. I want to thank the lovely Jess Corniching for joining me tonight in Brian's absence. I didn't even know he left town. I called Jess
way
today.
to tell Richard, Brian.
Yeah.
He was so sad.
Yeah, way to tell me, Brian. But that's okay. I got somebody cuter to look at.
Me
other
too.
Other than my wife. She's sitting over there. She's giving me the hairy eyeball now.
Hey, Richard, have you resin printed any furniture for your wife's hobby?
For my wife's hobby? Why would I be printing her furniture for her hobby? Are you doing something I don't know about, honey?
You're supposed to be making me my station, but you haven't made it.
I'm supposed to be making her a hobby station. That's what I'll be making her, as a hobby station. Kim Madsen, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We've had a great time. We always have a great time with you guys. Jess is slowly getting corked over at her place. And,
corked? No, actually, Ben, I was looking at this. I just found this on the desk. That's what I use. White lithium grease.
There you go. I think I've got a tube of it. No, this is actually a glue right here for PLA that I've got there. So
yeah, Ben, the dog is sleeping in my bed currently.
My best buddy. Speaking of which, I'll talk to you off air about that. We'll talk off air about that.
Okay. Yeah.
But thank you guys for joining us tonight. We are going to call it. We're going to wrap it here, and we will see you guys again on Wednesday with our review of the cutest little printer I have ever had the pleasure of reviewing. And my wife has taken ownership of it, so I will never ever see it again. So
it's Jerry's.
So it's Jerry's now, yeah. So we will see you guys on Wednesday, and then join you again here live Saturday night next week. Until we see you next time, what do we say, Jess?
The first layer is always your foundation to a great print.
There you go. She got it. I didn't even have to give her a cue card. Night, all.
Oh, thank you, KKP3D.